In the beginning, the world was not silent. It was loud with pain, loud with fear, loud with unanswered prayers. People believed in God, but they were afraid of Him. They followed laws, but they had forgotten love. They obeyed rules, but their hearts were empty. For generations, people waited. They waited for hope. They waited for light. They waited for someone who would not only speak about God, but show them who God truly was. And then, without warning, God chose silence. Not thunder, not fire, not a king on a golden throne, but a baby. Jesus was born in a place where no one expected a miracle. No palace, no crown, no army, only hay on the floor, only animals breathing nearby, only tired parents holding a child who would change the world. That night, heaven whispered instead of shouted. Angels didn't announce Him to kings, they announced Him to shepherds, ordinary people, ignored people, forgotten people. Because from the very beginning, Jesus did not come for the powerful, He came for the broken. And then, something strange happened. The story slowed down. Years passed, and the boy grew, not into a warrior, not into a ruler, but into a carpenter. Jesus worked with His hands. He felt splinters in His fingers. He felt sweat on His face. He lived a life that looked ordinary. No miracles, no crowds, no applause, just silence for nearly 30 years. Think about that. The Son of God waiting. Because sometimes the greatest purpose grows in the quiet. And then, one day, the silence ended. Jesus stepped into the world not with force, but with words that felt like water to a thirsty soul. He spoke of love, not the kind that is easy, but the kind that forgives enemies. He spoke of mercy, not for the perfect, but for the sinners. He spoke of a God who did not stand far away, but walked among His people. People listened because no one had ever spoken like this before. Jesus did not choose the religious elite. He chose fishermen, tax collectors, outcasts, men with doubts, men with fears, men with broken pasts. Because Jesus did not look for ability, He looked for willingness. And wherever He went, lives changed. Not because He forced them to change, but because love has a way of doing that. But not everyone was happy. Those who held power began to feel threatened. Jesus didn't break laws with violence. He broke hearts with truth. He exposed pride. He challenged hypocrisy. He reminded people that faith without compassion is empty, and that made Him dangerous. Crowds grew. So did opposition. The same voices that once whispered hope soon began to whisper doubt. Who is He really? Why does He speak like this? Why does He sit with sinners? And slowly, love became a threat. Then came the night of betrayal. A friend sold Him for silver. A kiss became a weapon. Jesus did not run. He did not fight. He stood still. Because this was not an accident. This was a choice. He was mocked, beaten, humiliated. The crowd shouted, the soldiers laughed, and the man who taught love was treated with cruelty. Yet He remained silent, not because He was weak, but because love does not always defend itself. As He was lifted onto the cross, the sky grew dark. Pain covered His body, but forgiveness covered His words. He looked at those hurting Him and prayed for them. Not judgment, not revenge, but mercy. And then He breathed His last. Hope seemed buried. Faith seemed foolish. The silence returned. They placed His body in a tomb. A stone sealed the entrance. To the world, the story was over. But love was not finished. 3 days later, the silence broke again. The tomb was empty. Death had lost. Fear had failed. Jesus was alive. Not as a memory, not as an idea, but as living hope. Those who once hid in fear now spoke with courage, because when love defeats death, nothing can stop it. And today, this story still speaks,
not because it is old, but because it is alive. In a world full of noise, Jesus still speaks softly. In a world full of anger, Jesus still chooses love. In a world full of broken hearts, Jesus still offers hope. This is not just a story from the past. It is an invitation to believe, to forgive, to love. Because sometimes the greatest miracles begin in silence.